everyone, Cadaver Kelly here, and in this video, I'm going to let you know about some new goth music releases, so stick around. So this is a new type of video for my channel. I'll be putting one of these out about once per season, once every 3 months or so, to let you know about some new music releases. I only do about one album review per quarter, and there's so much more music being released than just that. I'd love to review it all, but my entire channel would be album reviews if I did that, and I like to have my variety. So I thought this would be a good way to let you know about the other music that I maybe didn't cover in an album review. This is going to include both goth and goth adjacent genres, so it's going to be all the standard genres under the goth umbrella, plus some closely related music genres like other types of post-punk or synth-pop or maybe some shoegaze. So without further ado, let's get into it for winter of 2020. We are going to start with music that was released in December of 2019. These will be in chronological order based on the day they were released. I will link all of the Bandcamp pages to these releases in the description in the order they appear in the video. Apologies in advance for any butchered pronunciation on the non-English language releases. On December 1st, 2019, Austin, Texas-based cold wave artist This Cold Night released a 4-track EP called Black Cherry. I would recommend this to fans of cold wave and more minimalistic post-punk. On December 5th, Skeletal Bats, a goth band from Mexico, released a 5-track demo called Putrefacto. This EP is an interesting blend of synth, death rock, and post-punk sounds. Also on December 5th, goth band Over released a 10-track album called To the Teeth. I want to call this more of a goth rock sounding album. It leans more on the harder side for goth music and features powerful feminine vocals. On December 7th, Brazilian band Anum Preto released a 10-track debut album called Inferno Interno, which I think is a lot of fun to say. This one is a dark post-punk album, so if you're into first-wave post-punk, give this one a listen. On December 9th, Mexican post-punk band Soma Cake released a 6-track EP called The Longest Hug. This one is darker post-punk, but there's also some synth work and shoegaze elements in the mix. If you've been enjoying newer post-punk wave bands like Twin Tribes, check this one out. Speaking of Twin Tribes, on December 13th, Twin Tribes released their new album Ceremony. I did an album review video for this, so I will link that in the description of this video. Also on December 13th, Isle of Man-based goth rock band Slow Decay released 8 tracks on an album called Pre-Dawn Light. This is another harder-leaning goth rock album with strong feminine vocals. If you're a big fan of 90s goth, you might enjoy this one. On December 26th, Louisville, Kentucky-based darkwave band Scary Black released 8 tracks on the album Are You Afraid of the Dark? This one has very dark 80s reminiscent instrumentals and very deep leading vocals. This album was so good, so please check it out. On December 29th, Italian goth rock and darkwave band Hidden House released their self-titled debut EP. It has 4 tracks, and I would recommend it to anyone who's into 90s goth rock. Now we will cover the releases for January of 2020. On January 3rd, 2020, Oakland, California-based post-punk and wave band Lover's Guilt released a 4-track EP called A Trace of Light. I would maybe call this one a little more goth adjacent. It leans heavily into synth-pop sounds. Anyone who appreciates electronic music genres may want to give this one a try. On January 10th, Cincinnati, Ohio-based band The Surfs released an 11-track album called Sounds of Surfdom. This one also leans into the synth-pop sounds and wave sounds, so I think you'll enjoy it if you're a fan of synth-heavy wave genres. Also on January 10th, San Diego-based California darkwave artist Cerulean Veins released an 11-track album called Blue. This one really adds a modern twist to solid darkwave. On January 12th, Indonesian death rock band Succubus released a 3-track EP called Coherence. Even though it was only 3 tracks, it was really good and it doesn't take long to listen through, so check it out. On January 17th, Polish goth post-punk band Honda released a 9-track album, which I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce, but it was really good. If you're into Ich mal Deutschland or Belgrado, check this album out. On January 24th, LA-based darkwave artist Kai Byrne released a 9-track album called Obelisk the Tormentor. It incorporates a lot of dark and atmospheric post-punk sounds and leans heavily into its synth-pop elements. Also on January 24th, Arkansas-based band White Mansion released a 10-track album called Human. This one was quite the mixed bag of sounds. There was some post-punk, some wave, and some of it leaned a little more towards indie soft rock. I'd probably call this goth adjacent. Overall, it was an interesting album. I believe Obscure Undead reviewed this on their channel if you want to hear more long-form opinions on it. On January 31st, Denton, Texas-based band Blood Bells released an album called A Time for Roses. The album has 8 tracks and has an 80s goth rock sound to me. If you're into goth rock bands that came out of Leeds in the 80s, you'll probably enjoy this one. Finally, we'll cover the releases for February of 2020, and there were a lot of them. On February 1st, 2020, Australian band Death Comes Crawling released a 5-track EP called In My Memories Old. Although the band now seems to be a lot more synth-pop, this particular EP is a collection of previously unreleased songs that were recorded several years ago and are much more goth and darkwave than their debut 2017 album. I like that album as well, but In My Memories definitely has goth appeal. On February 7th, LA-based dark post-punk band Jurors released their debut EP. From their Bandcamp page, it seems they've been playing music live for a couple years, but this seems to be the first release. The EP has 5 tracks and borders somewhere between first wave dark post-punk and second wave goth rock in its style. On February 10th, Germany-based band Schwarzer Sand released a 5-track EP called Trauermarsch. I believe this is the first release from this band. It's definitely the first one I've heard, but hopefully they put out more because this is very good. It's somewhat of a dark synthwave sound. It leans very heavily into the synth-pop side of wave. On February 11th, French wave and dark synth-pop artist Alex Syndrome released a 15-track album called Phantom. It is a collection of sounds that range from synth-pop to wave to post-punk. Also on February 11th, Italian cold wave band Femme de Venise released a 4-track EP called EP2. Definitely check this out if you're into more minimalistic post-punk. On February 13th, Russian goth rock band Old Vampires released a 3-track EP called Glass Road. This is just some solid goth rock and it doesn't take long to give it a listen. There are 4 releases I want to let you know about from February 14th. The first is an album called Haunting Me by Polish band Echo the Strange. This is an experimental mix of sounds ranging from goth and post-punk to electro and electronic influences. The next is a self-titled EP from an artist from Dallas, Texas called Breath Play. I would categorize this EP as dark cold wave, and I'm looking forward to seeing more material from Breath Play. The third is a 3-track darkwave EP from Swedish band The Secret French Postcards. The EP is called Awake and was released by Cold Transmission Records. The fourth is a 5-track EP from Rochester, New York-based Lovers Deceivers. The EP is kind of a mix of goth rock, post-punk, and alternative rock sounds. On February 15th, Italian darkwave band Chemical Waves released a 10-track album called Even When We Fall Apart. If you're a fan of Switchblade Symphony or Diva Destruction, give this album a listen. On February 16th, Austin, Texas-based cold wave artist This Cold Night released a 12-track album called The Self-Divided, which is a collection of lost demos and abandoned tracks. This is the second time This Cold Night appears on this list since he also had that EP release in December. This Cold Night is one of my favorite, more recent artists, and I'm loving both releases from this past winter. On February 21st, French post-punk band Paradise Cove released a 10-track album called Dead End. This is another album that takes cues from early post-punk but gives it a modern twist. Also on February 21st, Lakewood, California-based death rock band Shadow Roots released a 6-track EP called Giving Tree. If you're into Roz Williams' Christian death, definitely check this one out. On February 28th, Canadian darkwave band Palisade released a self-titled album containing 8 tracks. If you're a fan of She Passed Away, definitely check this album out. On February 29th, Italian darkwave band I Am No One released a 10-track album called A Primitive Trinitas. This was another solid darkwave album for my fellow darkwave fans. Also on February 29th, Polish death rock band Psycho Formalina released a 9-track album called 3 on Batcave Productions, which is an independent Polish record label. That concludes the new music releases I've been listening to from this past winter. Of course, I'm sure there are other goth-friendly releases from this past season that I didn't get a chance to listen to. So if you know of any others, please leave them down in the comments. That would be for December through February. I'll do another one of these for March through May at the end of spring. If these releases sound interesting to you, again, I will link them in the description in the order that I covered them in this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.